Hello viewers, I am Mushahid Hussain Sayed from Pakistan with another episode of Global South Voices on behalf of CGTN, China's global television network for the world. Global South Voices is the flagship show of CGTN, which presents a perspective through the lenses of the Global South, the world's majority. And in today's episode, we will be discussing the role of Greater BRICS Cooperation in the context of the upcoming summit of BRICS on 6th and 7th of July in Brazil. When we see the shifts in the global power balance away from the West to the East with the resurgence of the Global South, BRICS is a driving force in this change, which is inevitable, inexorable, and irreversible. And the role of BRICS will be discussed in today's episode. Its origins, its evolution, its development, its challenges, its contributions, and its achievements. And Greater BRICS Cooperation will also be focused on in the context of the rise of the Global South. And in today's episode, we have a very diverse and distinguished panel. And let me introduce you to this distinguished participants that are going to be taking part in today's episode of Global South Voices. We have with us from Brazil, the host country, the very eminent economist and intellectual, Professor Paulo Nogueira Batista. He was formerly also executive director at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. From Tehran, Iran, the recent war zone, we have eminent scholar, Mr. Mohammad Hussain Baqeri, who is the founder and chairman of the Iqbal Forum. And he is based in Tehran, and he is one of the very eminent commentators and analysts on Iranian foreign policy and Iran's relations with the outside world. From South Africa, we have the very senior journalist and analyst and commentator, Mr. Faizal Dawjee. And from India, which is also a very major member of BRICS, we have Mr. Mohammed Saqib, and he is executive director of the Center for Geoeconomics of the Global South with the abbreviation COGS, COGGS. So in this panel, we'll have this discussion on various aspects, and I'd like to start from Brazil, the host country, from Professor Paulo Batista. Professor Batista, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to reconnect with you. I would like to ask you about the current global economic scenario in the context of the recent trade war which was initiated by President Trump. Tariffs, trade war against China, and then calls for protectionism. And then I think Trump had to blink. He had to back off. And in this regard, BRICS presented a sort of a united front on these issues of economic interaction. So how do you see this development of the US-spawned trade war against China, and then the tariffs and the changing global economic scenario, and what role BRICS has played and is going to play in this regard? Professor Paulo.
Good morning. Thank you, Senator, for inviting me to this conversation. First of all, I think we need to start from the standpoint that the West, led by the US, has simply moved away or broken the structure of international relations that was established by the West itself since the Second World War. When that structure suited them, they not only abided by it, but they forced, or they tried to force other countries to abide by it. Now it's completely different. For example, now that they're less competitive, the US is less competitive with respect to China, for for example, they are now abandoning neoliberalism, free markets in favor of protectionism. And this, in fact, this has been going on for some time now. It's been accelerated in the Trump presidency, but it's a trend that was ongoing before. The Trump did blink after making a very aggressive start, but the damage has been done to the US and to the international economy. And I think we need to recognize as BRICS that the world is very different, very dangerous, much more dangerous economically and politically than before.
I think that's a very important point, that how the West itself framed the rules for the international order after World War II. And then when it suited them, they said, yes, we want a rules-based international order. And when they saw them falling behind in competition or not in consonance with their own interests, they moved away from the rules they themselves talked about and framed. And I think that is the dichotomy between what is preached and what is practiced. Mr. Baqeri in Tehran, welcome to the show, and what can you give us some more details about the recent events that took place in your country after facing the Israeli aggression?
To answer your question, I have to start with the grave miscalculations that Israel, especially with the United States, first had about Iran. Initial success of attacking Syria, Gaza, and Lebanon make Israel a great harm, and it gives them three grave miscalculations. The first miscalculation was misreading the Iranian people's resolve. Iranians have shown if change ever comes to the governance, be it republic, monarchy, or otherwise, it will come only by the will of Iranian people. Just by that. No matter how economically pressured or politically dissatisfied they may be, but the foreign aggression will be met with ruthless and united resistance. So it was the first miscalculation, and that was the answer. The second miscalculation of Israel was that they imagined Iran was like Syria, where a surprise attack could dismantle the core of a state. But unlike Syria, Iranians believe that if all its commanders have been martyred, all its scientists has been assassinated, every soldier in Iran would change into a commander, and every student in there would change into a nuclear scientist. So they have proven it absolutely wrong if they think and misunderstood Iran and Syria. The third misunderstanding and miscalculation about Iran was underestimating Iran's military infrastructure. Israel thought that Iran's underground missile complex and as an indigenous youth-driven, somehow defense industry was merely a kind of theatrical display or cinematic illusion.
Mr. Faizal Dawjee in South Africa, now I come to you. So how do you see the spirit of BRICS permeating across the African continent, and how do you see BRICS playing an important role to bring the different countries of the Global South together? Because BRICS today is a major pillar of Global South cooperation.
Thank you, Senator, for inviting me. I think that we need to look at the BRICS spirit within the current context of the destruction of the international rules-based order. I think even before the events in the Middle East of October 2023, the rules-based order only applied to those in the West and in the global North. And what October 23 did was once and for all destroyed the myth of the rules-based order. Now, in terms of BRICS and the move towards greater participation from the Global South in the BRICS programs, this is a direct snub to the Western order. The fact that more countries in the global south are now part of the BRICS project is a clear indication that countries see the global north as just offering lip service to this diverse, heterogeneous global project that we have. So if you just look at the numbers, almost 40% of the world's population now belongs to the BRICS countries. 40% of global trade is conducted within the BRICS countries. There are more countries willing to join BRICS. I mean, if you look at countries in Asia, Pacific, in Latin America, some countries in the global north, Turkey, and so on. There is a definite move towards moving towards BRICS. And this goes to the point that you made. This is about the spirit of solidarity. I'll give you an example. When South Africa launched its case at the ICJ in 2023, there were tremendous repercussions. I mean, we are still feeling it today. The onslaught from the global north was tremendous. The pressure from the UK, the pressure from the US, other European countries, the EU, all sought to discourage South Africa from going ahead with this application. And what did you have in turn? Countries of the global south pledging their support for South Africa. This is the spirit of Bandung that you've been talking about. This is what BRICS should be in its expansion, in its move towards getting greater membership. The spirit of solidarity is not only political, it is economic also. So I think across the African continent, as more countries realize that the global north pays lip service to all of these factors, there is greater, what can I call it? There is greater appreciation for them to join BRICS, because it offers them much more leverage and a greater voice in their own development.
Thank you, Mr. Dawjee. Mr. Mohammad Saqib, you are also from India, and India is also playing a very key role in the emergence of the global south, and your own organization also, the Center for Geoeconomics of the Global South, is playing a role in your own country in this regard. We have seen that of late the BRICS mechanism has become more attractive, and there is a long queue to join BRICS, long queue of countries, in fact, I think over a couple of dozen. Indonesia joined also some time back, and Colombia recently joined the New Development Bank also. So in this regard, how do you view the role of BRICS so far in terms of what it has achieved, and what do you think are its major contributions to the emerging global order? Mr. Mohammad Saqib.
We have seen everything in the global south. We have seen economic cooperation, we have seen effort on de-dollarization, we have seen connectivity corridors, we have seen now wars, we have seen atrocities, we have seen frictions within West. So now we have the whole scenario, but somebody has to cook it. And I think this is a very, very important time. We are in the cusp of change of world order. And where BRICS will take the global south, I think that BRICS will be the leader should be the leader of the overall global south. Depends that how do we behave ourselves in Brazil, and what do we bring on table.
And I would direct my question to Professor Paulo Batista, because he has a financial and banking background as well. That how do you see, Professor Paulo, the role of the New Development Bank, the NDB, and what has it achieved, and what are the future prospects?
I was one of the founding members of the NDB. It's now, we're exactly 10 years since I joined the bank in Shanghai as vice president, as one of the vice presidents of the bank. It has achieved, it has achieved a lot. It's the most important initiative on the part of the BRICS. Now, the NDB has, as I said, achieved. It has staff, it has approved projects, quite a lot of projects. It has made less, but disbursements. It is a structure. It's not functioning very well, but it's there. It has expanded its membership. You mentioned that Colombia is coming in, but other countries have come in as well. Now, let me just tell you, expansion of the bank is welcome, but expansion of the BRICS may be also welcome. The group, the political formation may be also welcome, as you mentioned, Senator. But it has some downsides to it, you see, because the group, the BRICS political formation, is heterogeneous, as has been said, and as it expands, it risks becoming less effective. Why? Because we as a group have adopted the rule of consensus for the decisions, meaning unanimity, and this makes every step forward pretty difficult.
Mr. Dawjee, we have been talking about BRICS as an important player in the emerging world order, as a driving force in global South cooperation, for a platform for trade, for economy. Professor Paulo also mentioned about de-dollarization. I would like to ask you about a very important component of relationships in the global South, that is people-to-people bonding and people-to-people exchanges. How important these are, because after all, the camaraderie that exists in the global South is not confined to regimes or governments or officialdom. There is that linkage at the people-to-people level, among intellectuals, among scholars, among universities, among media, among think tanks, and youth and women and civil society. So, Mr. Dawjee, how do you see, and what is the potential for that, and what do you think needs to be done more to promote such people-to-people exchanges to strengthen the bonds among the people of the global South in the context of BRICS and broadly in global South as well?
The countries in the global South have much more in common with one another than have they differences. So whether it is sport, whether it is culture, whether it is movie making, whether it's eating habits, all of those things are very, very important. So if you're talking about culinary issues, it's about spices, it's about trade. If you're talking about sport, all of those things are very, very important in terms of individual and for a country's development. Now, the lack of this kind of interaction and engagement is kind of tragic in a way, because when you speak about the Bandung spirit, this was what the Bandung spirit was all about. Technological developments in the last 5 years have made it almost impossible for individuals not to interact with one another, whether it's in the scientific field, whether it's history, economics, finance sectors, everything is interconnected. And I think BRICS should be taking a much more concerted effort to ensure that at the soft power level, these should be some of the basic tools they should be putting in place for countries and individuals to engage with one another, whether it's got to do with dropping stringent visa requirements so that people can travel and engage with one another, or whether you're placing restrictions on incentives for movie making in different countries. So the creative sector has so much to offer, but if you have high tariffs and there are no incentives for people to engage with one another in different countries, then this is a problem. I really think there should be much more effort made by BRICS to foster this kind of engagement, whether it's person to person, business to business, even without enclosing that within government to government. It should be open to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dawjee. I come to Mr. Saqib. And Mr. Saqib, you have been not fully satisfied with the role and performance of BRICS, its track record so far. What do you think needs to be done more in the coming years to make BRICS an effective voice of the global south in the emerging world order? Because you yourself mentioned that we are at the cusp of a global change, an inflection point where there's a transition in the world order, and the economic and political power is shifting inexorably and perhaps irreversibly from the west to the east. And we are seeing in this regard not just the decline of the west, but also the rise of the global south. Mr. Saqib.
Thank you, Senator. Actually, BRICS has a huge potential. And that is why my disappointment comes out of it, that you have a huge potential, but you are not really performing up to it. I give you an example. In my organization, we are just doing a research study on global south, where BRICS is a major part of it. And we have gone through some very preliminary analysis of the thing and all. 76% of all the needs of the global south can be fulfilled within the global south. And BRICS is going to play a major role in it. What we are seeing is that probably if you go, we have identified a specific some 34 countries, what they really need, what are their requirements for the future, which are the demands and which could be the suppliers within the global south. I mean, if we really go with specific projects, it is going to work. Things have really become very clear that countries have different priorities, and the loyalties are suspected. I think, but for global south, we must realize that we have no other alternative. If we are looking for multipolarity, if we are looking for new markets, if we are looking for, whatever the spirit of, as you mentioned, of global south, the equality, inclusivity, and all these things will come only when we come together. And I think I still say again that there has to be a concerted program, leadership, and institution to take it forward.
Thank you, Mr. Saqib. I think the agenda for the global south should be set, of course, by different countries, but BRICS can be a very important mechanism, institutional mechanism to take that forward. For example, we all agree that the global center of gravity is shifting from the west to the global south, and in this regard, what are some of the major challenges and opportunities? In this regard, I'd like to ask Professor Paulo Batista, what are your expectations as the host country for the upcoming summit of the BRICS? And how would you compare BRICS, as some people try to do, with the G7? They say that BRICS can be the alternative to G7 because BRICS is more inclusive, it's more democratic, and it's more cooperative. They have shared experiences of these global south countries. Your take on it, Professor Paulo Batista?
I agree with you, Senator, that the BRICS are a promising group, much more promising than the G7, where the West is represented. But you have noticed we have noticed in this exchange we had today, that a critical tone of the BRICS prevails. We need to do more, we need to be more effective, but I think that we also need to take a, let's say, Chinese approach to this matter, because it's only in the long run that the BRICS will become effective. And finally, on the issue of de-dollarization that you mentioned, Senator, it's true, and it's important to note that the area where de-dollarization is advancing most, it's in the area where you mentioned of transactions between countries, between BRICS countries and between other countries and the BRICS. That's going forward. National currencies are being increasingly used. There is an alternative to the Western-dominated SWIFT. All of this is difficult. We need to move forward. In my opinion, we're moving forward much too slowly for reasons that have been mentioned by us today. And in particular, I would like to stress we need to adopt the approach that was mentioned in the Kazan Leaders' Declaration in Russia last year. Some initiatives have to be taken on the basis of a voluntary and non-binding initiative. Not all countries need to be involved in the first stage. If we stick to consensus, as we have done mostly or entirely, this will of course be a recipe for paralysis. But I hope we can move forward. The BRICS are the main hope of the Global South. Everyone in the Global South looks to us, BRICS, as an alternative to the Western-dominated, asymmetrical, unfair order, and we need to rise to this challenge.
Thank you. I think Professor Paulo Batista has summed it up very well, that BRICS remains the main hope of the Global South as an alternate to the Western-dominated order. And I think that building a better tomorrow, pushing it forward for the Global South, BRICS can be the main vehicle and instrument. With that, viewers, we come to the end of this episode of Global South Voices. We thank all our distinguished participants for their expert views, for their insights, and for their rich comments on different aspects and of the challenges in the current global order, the rise of the Global South, and the role of BRICS. You can also find us on CGTN app, on X, on YouTube and Facebook. I am Mushahid Hussain Sayed. Stay tuned to Global South Voices, which is the flagship show of the CGTN, presenting a perspective of the world's majority, the Global South. Till we meet next time, thank you.